Today's tutorial is all about holiday watercolor painting. Hey guys, I'm Shayda, and on this channel I teach art like watercolor and hand lettering, so please subscribe if you haven't already. So we have just moved to the east coast of Canada, and Christmas is so beloved here, and the houses in our neighborhood are decked for the holidays. And we've noticed a tradition that's sort of new to us, and that's putting a candle in the windows. Everybody on our block has one almost, and so I thought that would be a fun thing to illustrate and paint, and that's what we're going to do today. You can see the illustration here. I've got it transferred onto tracing paper, and it's just a simple window, one candle, and some sprigs of greenery across the windowsill. So I've put it on the tracing paper, the image, in order to transfer it onto the watercolor paper. This is my watercolor paper. It's a nice textured paper, so it's cold pressed, 140 pound, and I've really been into ripping my watercolor paper edges lately, and I just do that with a straight ruler. Now I'm transferring my image using a piece of graphite transfer paper, and I just go over all of the lines with a nice sharp mechanical pencil in order to transfer it onto the watercolor paper. And that's what it looks like once you've got your transfer. And I just usually take my pencil and fill in any little areas that I might have missed or things that I want to fix before I begin my painting. And this is a really nice way to work with watercolors if you're sort of new to them, because as you can see, your image is transferred. So it almost becomes like a coloring page. And if you're not super familiar with the paints and the way they work, then that can be a really nice way to introduce yourself to watercolor painting. I've got a nice cool gray here, and I'm just filling in the window frame. You could do this though, any color, brown would be nice, or even a black. And yeah, I'm just laying down fairly flat colors, so not a lot of depth and difference. I can always go back in later once the paint has dried and go back in with a second color or a second shade and add some more depth and shadow and shading. So I'm just painting in the winter greenery here that lies across the windowsill. I'm using a number 6 round brush that comes to a very fine point in order to do that. So the point on this brush is what allows me to make these very detailed sprigs of greenery sort of come to life, so that they really look like evergreen sprigs and pine and cedar. For the snow, I'm taking a very watered down, extremely light blue, and I'm just putting a little touch of blue sort of across the bottom of each snowdrift. You really want to have a light hand with this. You don't want dark blue snow. You want it to be light and translucent, so still lots of the page showing through. You want it to be that color of the inside of an iceberg or something like that. I'm also putting just a little bit of that light blue around the window, as though the house were sort of covered in snow as well, or there was snow alongside that window frame. Now I'm going to paint my candle with a very Christmassy red. I'm using a cool cherry red. You could use a warm red if that's your thing, but I do like the bright pop of red for the holidays, and I think it really helps the piece sort of come together. I'm also going to add a little red to those holly berries on the windowsill, and then at this point a lot of the sprigs of greenery, or a lot of the green on the painting has dried, so I'm going to go back in with a darker green and a cool blue green and add some detail to that area of the painting. And then I'll add a warm yellow to my candle glow. This is another area of the painting where you want to have a very light hand. I'm almost dry brushing a little of that light yellow around the area of the flame, so as to make it look like the glow from the candle is there. And then the last part of this painting is painting in those windows. And the way I did this, I'll show you here, is I'm laying down a nice wash of water. Now I do have a little purpley gray in my water there, just so you can see. And then I've mixed up this dark purplish gray, and I'm going to put little spots of that into my puddle that I've already created. So lay down your wash of water. This can be clear water or water just tinted slightly. And then you're going to go back in with that purpley gray and add little bits of that paint and just allow it to feather out into the puddle that you've already created. At first I wasn't really sure what color to paint the windows, but I think the purpley gray worked really well. It contrasts nicely with the yellow and it gives the look of a dark yet cozy home. I also added a little bit of purple to the candle to add some shadow there where the wax is dripping. And then I went in and added just a touch of brown to our window frame to make it look a little more interesting. All right, we're gonna set that aside and allow it to dry, and meanwhile I'll show you how I did the sketch of the window. So I always start with a piece of graph paper, especially for an item like a window where you want it to have some symmetry. The graph paper is so helpful, and you can see me laying down the initial rectangle and cross. And from there, you've got this nice symmetrical window and you can draw in your panes. And I think once the window is drawn in, then the hard work is already done and you can start doing this lumpy snow in the corner of each window pane and just make it sort of bulbous and sloping. And I think it'll have a nice natural look. That's a lot of fun to draw. One thing you could do is draw a line of snow along the top of the window. I didn't think of that until after I had drawn my first one, but I think that would be very successful. You're going to put the candle in the center with a nice big flame. I like to make the flame almost a little too large. And then across the bottom of that window frame, you can just have fun drawing in some different Christmas greenery, some pine and cedar sprigs, some little holly berries and leaves, maybe even do some Christmas flowers like poinsettias or roses in there or something, but you could have a little fun with that. So that's how the drawing comes together. Started on graph paper, then of course you get to go over with that ever so helpful tracing paper. I love extracting what I like and getting rid of what I don't like, and that's what the tracing paper allows you to do. So you can see here I can change the shape of things just slightly if I want, and I can really perfect my drawing. When you're doing the flowers here, if you think, oh, they're just a little off or they're not quite centered, you're able to just move the paper and continue forward with your sketch. So let's see what that looks like. We've got a nice perfected image on our tracing paper. We can just finish it off there. And then at this point, you'd be ready to transfer that image to your watercolor paper. Okay, so this is all dry at this point. I'm going to take my Pigma Micron, my artist pen from Sakura, and I'm just going to add that sketchy black line over top of my painting. So I'm taking the time to put a lot of line and detail into those evergreen sprigs. I'm drawing some veining on the holly leaves, and I think that black sketchy line just really brings the whole image to life and makes it pop off the page. I'm going over almost all areas of this sketch. The only areas you want to avoid, like I'm going to outline the snow and everything, but I'm not going to add any black lining over the purple part, so not really on the window pane, and then I'm not going to add any black lines really outside of the window either. I just want that negative space to stay as it is. And then the final thing that I want to do, and probably the most fun bit of this, is to add a little bit of white gel pen to represent the falling snow outside the window. And you just want to put dots all over, don't leave any spots undotted. Even light areas like the candle flame and the snow should have some white dots on them for the discerning eye, and this really makes the whole piece pop, and it just gives it that really wintry seasonal feel. Now before I finish today's tutorial, there's a few things about this painting that I think make it really successful. So if you're a beginner and you're going to try doing this, here's where I think the painting really succeeds. First of all, the negative space that you leave between the window panes and the window frame. So don't let that purple edge its way right out to the dark gray window frame. Leave a little negative space there. Secondly, I think it succeeds in the color of the snow. You want this nice light blue snow, the color of an iceberg. Next, the negative space that surrounds the window. That that negative space could be snow, and the blank page of course works perfectly as that. So that's a really nice element of design here that you can employ very easily by doing nothing. And finally, those little white snowflakes that you lay down at the end, they, as I said, they just make the whole painting pop, and they're very easy to add. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today. Make sure you head over to my site, shaydacampbellblog.com, because there are lots of free holiday coloring pages over there for you to download. And I've also done a blog post all about Christmas watercolors, including this one. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you next week with a new tutorial.